We're on.
Good morning. Upton Borough Board of Selectmen. It's Monday, December 3rd. Continuation of our regular meeting following non-public sessions. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Any public input before we get started?
I have a question about the article that was in the paper last week. I didn't watch the video of the meeting, but it said that Clay was going to have less inspections done. Fewer.
The monitoring.
But are we in charge of that? Isn't that a state mandated program?
What I recall is that there's an opportunity for us to reduce the number of inspections that we do on the test wells and that sort of thing. And we've had some back and forth conversation with the consultant that does the work, and came to the conclusion that while it's possible to file for a change in the way we do the inspections that would result in fewer inspections, once you open that door, you may go in a different direction from where we're at now. It may get more complicated rather than less complicated. So his recommendation is we just stay with the program we're using. The state's happy with it.
Right, but the state is telling us that we have to continue monitoring. It's not up to us.
We can't, right.
The discussion was whether or not we wanted to approach the state about doing less monitoring.
Right.
And the motion was if we do an extensive review, we might end up doing more. So let's just leave well enough alone.
Even though I understand the results are getting better than it is.
Right. And that's why the conversation came up.
Right.
Okay.
But we are doing additional testing as well because of the seep that happened.
Yes. Right.
So
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
that's a whole nother thing.
That's a whole separate.
That's all the rumors about the green and yellow discharge.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And they weren't rumors, they're actually green and yellow discharges.
Well, nobody that I've talked to seemed to know exactly what was going on.
Steve has
That's a good
pictures,
thing.
I'm sure.
If we can keep everybody confused.
Yeah.
It's working.
Put
Yeah.
it on the website.
Most of all, we keep ourselves confused.
Yes. It's easy to do.
Yep. All right. Let's move on to review and approval of minutes. We have
Lots.
public minutes from the 19th. Is that right?
Mhm.
And I don't. Do I have those? I'm not.
I do. You need a copy?
All right.
I have no issues.
All right. Yeah.
I'll move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I
Opposed? Okay, thank you. And then we have non-publics from the 19th.
The 26th.
Yeah, but let's do the non-publics from the 19th first. We have 3 sets of non-public from the
You
19th.
gonna be that way today?
Yes.
All right.
Sorry.
8:47.
The 8:47. I have one change. The second to last line in the second paragraph. Change the word to gate.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's fine to me.
I'll move approval as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then we have the 12:50 non-public. And they look good to me.
Look good to me.
All right. I'll move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And the 102 non-public.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. And then we have the November 26th public meeting.
I have no issues.
Wait, did okay, so I'll move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, and then we have non-public on the 26th.
This is the 8:31.
Yes, we only had one, right? Yeah.
I'll move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. All right. Mr. Wingate.
He's getting
He's having a
water.
moment.
Oh,
He's expiring.
Yeah, really.
Come on down.
I may have to hack my way through this.
Okay.
I'm at the tail end of a cold. Got a tickly throat.
Keep it on that side of the table, will you?
Okay. Good news. The Conservation Commission has been approved for 2 grants totaling $149,000 to acquire 140 acres in the Great Meadow. And an L-chip and ARM fund. ARM fund is that fund where if you unauthorized filling of wetlands, or you have a approved permit to fill wetlands, you have to do some kind of compensation, either create some new wetlands somewhere or pay for the creation of some new wetlands or protection of wetlands. So the fund acquires money over time, and then there's a committee that selects projects that they think the highest priority, either for protection or creation of wetlands. And the ARM Fund Committee said that we were the highest priority project in this region. And L-chip fund also put us at a really high level. So it was so we've been working hard on this. That really good thing.
Good.
The other news is that these come with strings attached. You have to do the highest quality, basically, on land acquisition there is to actually receive the funds. Oh, I should mention, the L-chip funds are going to be awarded on next Friday by the governor. I'll be down there hobnobbing for that.
We're a tie.
And
What time?
they ask that we not publicize this until after the awards are made, and then there's going to be press material with photos and stuff.
that's next Friday?
This coming Friday, end of the week.
Okay.
So
So don't publicize it so that when they decide they're gonna give all the money to their friends as opposed to you.
all right.
So no
So we don't
YouTube,
have it in
no.
the paper before Friday.
Who's representing the town? Are you?
Me and Rick Vanderpool are going down. I invited the other members of the commission.
I'll volunteer to go.
Okay, you want to ride with us?
Yes.
We don't have a plan yet, but Rick
You
and I are
will.
planning to ride together.
You have a week.
So is this grant gonna accommodate purchasing the easements that you wanna purchase?
This is actually outright purchases. These 2 landowners want to liquidate
Oh, okay.
their ownership. They're not interested in doing easements.
And is this gonna cover it?
Almost.
Okay.
I should mention that this is in the heart of the Great Meadow.
So how much of this land is wet?
This is the center of the target.
Okay.
How much of this land is wetland?
How much of the 140 acres is wetland?
Yeah.
Probably about 45% of it. And there's quite a bit of border area that is forested wetland. And then there's some upland protection involved in that. And the uplands also have some pretty nice views. If we get around to putting a trail in or something.
Or subdividing, we could do condos, right?
Well, that affects the value. So we have.
It fascinates me, I'm gonna just editorialize here for a second, that there's so much regulation about doing anything with wetlands, that they have any value at all or any reason to buy them at all. I mean, it just seems like.
Yes,
You
when
can't
it
do
comes
any
to
good,
actually protecting wetlands, owning the wetlands themselves are not the issue.
Right.
Owning the source of the water that goes into the wetland, or controlling the slopes that drain into the wetland are far, far more important.
Anyway, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, so
On television, had to say something.
these grants, they always want community to have some buy-in, so they never cover everything. Lots of times you can cover, just with volunteer effort, you can value that.
Right.
And some of that is true for us, but most of it is, the things that we have to accomplish that aren't paid for are like surveying, stewardship plan. These are all things that we're required to do before the check comes.
Mhm.
Rick Vanderpool has helped me put together a budget, and which is primarily estimates, and we still have to settle on the final price on one parcel of land. So those are the kind of unknowns. How are those going to turn out? Our best guess is that we're about $12,500 short. We'll probably.
$500 higher, 10 minutes, didn't it? It's like, I'm glad you got it in here. It's significant. $5,000. I'm sorry.
All right, so you're gonna be $12,500 short
By estimate.
by estimate.
That assumes that we get the land for our kind of handshake agreement
Right.
right now. One of the parcels.
Is there a way to get that to be more than a handshake? I mean,
Yes,
money
we
change
have to
hands.
execute a signed purchase and sale agreement, and that's what we don't have right now. We have a signed intent,
Okay.
but that will not stand up in the court as a legal.
Yeah.
Plus,
Yep.
you always want these things to be friendly. So we have to complete that. I really hope we can do it this week, if not next week. I'd like to have, before budget time is sealed, I'd like to have it all figured out. In the meantime, Wolfboro Tuftonboro Land Bank has committed $6,000 towards that, and then the other $6,500 will come out of our conservation fund.
Mhm.
So besides giving you the news, the reason I'm here is to see what other alternatives. It would be nice if we could keep the conservation fund unencumbered for the moment to cover contingencies, because we have broad authority to spend from that fund. That comes from land use change tax. We would, so I'm thinking about things like, we have a positive budget in 2018. If, for example, if we could get a contract with a surveyor for this year's funds, could we obligate that money and hold it?
As long as we have an actual obligation instrument, we can encumber those funds. But we can't just encumber them based on,
Yeah.
we have this thing. So the key is to get a price, we can execute a contract, and then we can encumber those funds from 2018.
Another opportunity could be with Rick Sager, who would be doing the closure work. Would need to obligate funds with him. Would that be all right?
I don't even know if we need to obligate at that point. I mean, I think we just need to figure out what this is gonna add to the conservation budget for services, say legal, surveying,
Well,
whatever.
I think you're looking at using this year's money, is that right?
Yeah, well,
So there's two- there's-
it's there, so if
You have
why not go
money
there
for a
first?
budget that can cover it, and we can encumber that money if we have a right way to encumber it, which is to say, a signed commitment to do it. If we don't have that, and you know you're gonna have this expenditure coming after the first of the year, then you certainly wanna make sure that in 2019 you have the funding available to deal with it. And if that's in addition to what you've already submitted, then what we would wanna do is amend your submission to the budget committee so that it gets, all this stuff gets in there before it goes to the budget hearing. So two different ways to deal with what you're looking at as a shortfall.
And two different types of service too. I mean, we can't, I think it would be sort of difficult to pass the straight face test to have Sager give us a
I don't think you can,
contract.
yeah, I don't think you can prepay closings for something that's not actually.
And he's already on
scheduled.
retainer, so
Mhm.
I think that just needs to move into your operating budget as an increase.
Well, surveying is probably the way I would go, and that's,
Right. Yep.
kind of the wheels already turning on those.
Yep.
Okay, then my third and last question is, you made a commitment to finance the phase one of 19 North Brook. Is there any flexibility on that?
Okay. If there needs to be, I think there could be. And we're gonna do it. There's no flexibility about doing it. But where we
Yeah.
fund it, I think is definitely up for discussion if you need it.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
That's good news, sir.
Yep.
All right, I'll
So
let you know.
how much land will we end up having all together in the Great Meadow for public consumption?
Sorry, my memory isn't good enough for that. You
All right.
you mean the whole bag?
The whole deal?
Well, there's two ways to look at that. There's 40 acres that is not reasonably associated with the central portion.
Mm-hmm.
So the central portion, I think it'd be approaching 400 acres,
Okay.
which is primarily wetlands with a pretty good border area. It would be very desirable in the future. I think our next phase would be to actually go pound on some doors
Get some upland?
and try to get people to put some easements on the fringe area of their properties that are probably not buildable, but would add to their property value and overall property value. A future purchaser knew that it was bounding a conserved area.
My observation is that Rick Vanderpool has been an ally in this
Yeah,
project, and it is on, I know of 3 of my sister's neighbors that he's contacted and had a positive relationship with.
he's an easy guy to like.
Yes, he is. He certainly has been good
So
for the town.
he's in our budget for 2019 for doing that kind of stuff.
Do we have to pay him to be nice?
I'll tell you what, when you hire Rick, you get a lot of free service with it.
Good.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you generally don't pay the long dollar for what he does.
Right.
Can I ask a question?
And he's not real expensive either.
Alyssa, yes.
So you got 2 grants.
Yep.
You talked about one, which I can't mention. What was the other one?
The other one was the ARM fund. That's, see if I can pull this out of my memory. Aquatic Resources Management Fund. Aquatic Resources is right. I'm taking a guess on the management part. It's run by DES. It's a state responsibility which comes out of, the laws are actually federal laws under Corps of Engineers, enforced by the Corps of Engineers, and then they for cooperating states, which almost all states cooperate, they delegate their responsibilities to the state. And that's the law that requires that any filled-in wetlands is replaced by either wetland protection or
money.
Did you give the total value of these 2 grants?
yes, the total is 149,000.
149,000 for about 140 acres.
Yeah. But the part, you have to get into nitty-gritty details to conclude what we're actually paying for an acre. And I don't think that we can disclose that until all the signatures are in the proper place. But some of the grant money is
You're still in negotiation to do an acquisition, so.
We respect that.
Yep.
some of those funds are to do the actual required work, you know, the legal fees, recording titles, insurance, title insurance, surveying the property. We have to get, we're not fully funded, but the bells and whistles are in the extra work we have to do.
So toward land acquisition costs, because it's not just all down.
It's statewide, we did really well on both funds. The LCHIP covers all kinds of projects all over the state. Only ones that are any higher than the ones we got was for some very prestigious reconstruction. They also do historic reconstruction and preservation and things like that. So those are always more expensive projects than acquiring wetlands.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your time and effort. It's appreciated.
All right, you got a way forward, right?
Yeah, that's gonna happen. Have you received, Milfoil received bids from a
Yep.
contractor?
We did.
All right, I got a response back from Wolfboro saying he didn't think that happened.
They
From
didn't
a
get,
reliable contractor?
yes. Yep, and they didn't get a response from a contractor? Well, my guess is they did, and that whoever didn't see it, but yes.
Yeah,
But the
okay.
state, Amy said that she expects to have her program pulled together in the next couple of weeks. So we do have the bids
Good.
in. And it is not from the contractor that.
I attended that meeting in Baltimore about AmeriCorps divers as a possibility for helping us out, but I don't see us being interested in that if we
Well.
can get a reliable contractor.
Yeah,
So,
Right.
'cause there's a lot of work going with that. Make that
Exactly.
happen.
exactly.
You're preaching
All right.
to the choir.
Yep, all right, thank you, Steve.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
So I expect to see your picture in the
Excuse me.
paper the next week.
I realized I came to the new cemetery.
From the city.
It'll be there.
But I
Yeah, you show it.
Well, I won't go
Because
through
I
with
have
it- you
the
anything I
expenditures
have.
and stuff. You don't have
They
the
should
backup now,
send a
right?
picture and send
I
it.
didn't realize that wasn't included in the new printout. So I
We
can go
got-
get
we
you.
have- Yeah, would you get?
Yeah, I just
you get the
realized
other
that.
ones? All right.
Yeah. Do you have?
She gave us an
your-
update this morning and
Yeah.
threw the old package away, which included most
Yeah, I
of
didn't
what
know.
we wanted to
Do you
look
happen to
at.
have it there on it? When she gave you your copy? No, that's all you got, 2 pages. Oh, no.
I got,
You have expenditures and your original request?
and this is the original one, this is, yeah. Yeah, I got 3.
All right, don't worry, I think I have. I'll be right back, sorry about that. I didn't realize.
Good morning, how you doing?
Good.
She came by sleigh.
Really? It's a little tough on a day like today.
Well, luckily it stayed warm enough that we didn't get ice,
Yeah, I
because that would
know.
have been really bad.
This is one of those winters that's starting in a way that I hate, which is you start with snow and then you go back to rain, and then you're, back and forth. Not that I want snow in early to mid-November, but once it starts snowing, let's just keep the snow coming and deal with the winter maintenance and not the rain and
Right.
turning the slush into ice and,
Encasing all those leaves that didn't get raked.
oh yeah, well, they're in tune for the season for
Right.
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I can give you a little update while we're waiting,
Great,
if you want.
please.
We have, we did not get the French cemetery finished because of the weather, because of the rain and the softness of the ground. They were able to get down there and build a retaining wall from the cemetery front corner to the bridge abutment
Mhm.
to stabilize the area under the wall. They were able to get that part of it done. Obviously, we got the trees removed. But then they weren't able to get heavy equipment in there to lift those big granite slabs
To reset that
to
wall.
reset all
Yeah.
the stuff, so. We'll be waiting for the weather to improve in the spring.
So that's coming out of,
That's
Gift-
coming out of our
gift.
gift fund, our
Right.
expendable fund. We had a major limb come down in the Edgerly Cemetery in August, and it knocked out about 4 stones, broke different degrees of damage to about 4 stones. And it was clear the tree was dead and had to come out. Another storm would have, and the next branch to go would have destroyed about a dozen graves. So we were able to get the crane, Northern Woods Crane Company in right after they finished the work at French, got into the Edgerly one with very generous cooperation from John Edgerly Sr. to allow us to get that equipment across his field, which, you know, actually that crane is so heavy that the tracks that are in his field are still very noticeable,
Mhm.
but he had been worried that he was gonna have to pay for it, so he was very happy that we were fixing it. And we used $2,100 from our budget. You can see on September 28th, went to Northern Woods Service towards the Edgewood thing. We took $2,100 out of our expendable fund because we didn't know how much we would have left in the regular fund. So that was interesting, but you know, the 60 some odd cemeteries, there's very few that don't have potential tree issues. So we're gonna be looking at that every year because you know how the wind has been working lately and the trees have been coming down everywhere.
And we know how the trees work around here. If you don't cut them down, they keep growing.
well, some of them, they just
They
die.
just,
Right, right, but if you cut them down when they're young, then you don't have to deal with that when they,
well, that's
if you
right.
ignore them, the forest grows up, and it doesn't matter whether it's in a cemetery or a cleared field or wherever. And
Right.
that's what we're seeing with a lot of these cemeteries, is this stuff is just,
Well, and look at the power lines and the roadsides where trees are coming down along the side of the road because the landowner doesn't want to pay to take that tree down. The logger that he hires isn't going to take it because it requires special equipment.
yeah,
The power company doesn't take it, they wait for Mother Nature,
and then they have to
And
come back
hope.
and
and
deal
then
with
it's a
it.
problem.
And then the tree that fell on the line right by the French cemetery, the state went down because the road agent asked and basically on their own time nudged it over. So you're absolutely right, it's an issue.
It is an issue. So, looking at the budget for next year, we've made some changes. Bill Williams tendered his resignation, as you know.
Yep.
So the old cemetery's restoration, the old cemetery mowing, we are gonna put into cemetery maintenance rather than having a separate line item for it.
So that's why that went from 12.5 to 15?
Yes.
Okay.
And we eliminated the, Old Cemetery mowing is at 0.
Yep.
We're gonna put those together. We're anticipating that Mark Eldridge will be doing the old cemeteries in conjunction with his regular cemetery work for us.
On that issue there, has there been any talk, I don't know if Bob, my brother, spoke to, Midge Dowers passed away, and he kind of coordinated the tree being removed, but I don't think he's gonna be doing that cemetery anymore.
Right, he came in and met with us.
I asked him to please work with you.
Yep, we're on
Great.
track with that.
Thank you very much.
So this person that you're talking about doing Bill Williams' job is already working for you? How long has he been doing it?
This was his second year, I think,
Yeah, okay.
of doing all the cemetery work.
Because I'd like to encourage bidding if we can. So let's can we talk about putting a term limit on these things? What happens is we find people coming in and, Sue does a good job, doesn't have to deal with all of this craziness sometimes, but they've been mowing for 5 years, they're just gonna mow for the next 50 until they die. At some point, we have to bring this into the 21st century and say, okay, you can mow the cemeteries for the next 2 years, and then we're gonna put it back out to bid, and you know what it costs you. We just need to keep our costs somewhere within market rate. And without putting things out to bid, you don't know what the market rate is.
I have to disagree with you in this particular instance, because I'm quite convinced that Mark is below market rate.
Oh, I'm sure, I'm not saying
And to
anything
get-
against Mark.
And to get these guys
It's
to do
just-
bidding
It's
is,
just process. We need
for
to,
him to do bidding, for example, it's beyond what he normally does. And these guys, you think of, I won't name names,
I
but
can't name names, but
the idea of submitting a bid sometimes just makes the whole thing not worthwhile. You know what I'm saying? You know people who.
well, no, I do know people like that, but then come up with, and
So-
I'm not saying we're gonna do this today or tomorrow or the next
Well,
day,
the
but
challenge.
come up with a process. You and I have lived here our whole lives. We need to come up with a process where we can assure the public that this isn't just nepotism, that we're actually working at market rate and we're giving an opportunity to the different people that do this kind of work. Maybe nobody wants to do it.
That's another point.
Yes.
This
Yeah,
is
right.
not a job that is sought.
Right.
Yeah, well, and to me, the bottom line is, we want to make sure we're getting good value for the dollar that we spend. So one way you can do it is you put out an RFP on some sort of basis. Some of the stuff that we get done on our RFP doesn't tell you everything. And somebody that comes in with the lowest price isn't necessarily somebody that you even want in there
Right.
working around the stones and that sort of thing. So putting it out to bid and getting bids back and evaluating bids is one way to calibrate what we're spending. That may not be the only way, but the key is, how do we remain comfortable that we're getting good value for the money? I don't know the answer to that.
And we're allowing opportunity. The last thing we want to be thought of is a closed shop. If somebody wants to do some work for the town, they should have the ability to at least bid for that work, in my estimation. So I think it's a discussion we need to continue to have. Thank you.
I will say that we have done, we've made substantial changes in that management of cemetery maintenance. And we no longer use True Green, for example. We were finding that out here, there's just tremendous dead spots. And we think it's because it's so dry out there, and when you put fertilizer chemicals on it, it burns it.
Hmm.
So we've stopped that, which was going on for years and was costing up to 4,000 a year to do this cemetery. Mark is out there with picking up the mulch and mulching those spots so that we can build up a little base and not get some burned out. So there's ongoing stuff that's happening out there that has been saving us money in that department. We've been doing more at other cemeteries than we have in the past. And I would say that, I forgot to say when we were talking about the Edgewave thing, because we had abandoned that cemetery, we were able to legally go in there and fix it and get that tree out before more.
They abandoned it, right?
Before more work, before more damage was done.
And Edgerly's happy about
He's fine.
the process.
He's very happy that we took
Yep.
care of it,
Good.
yes. And he's not worried about the damage to his field, as far as I know. So, we are negotiating, we've got a meeting tomorrow night, and we'll have most of our bills in for the year. You see from the budget that so far we've spent only about $15,000 of our $21,000 budget. We are getting bids for 3 gates out here, 3 iron gates. And we're hoping to buy those this year, get them installed in the spring. You know, finish taking the rocks out and put an iron
Is that
gate.
gonna come out of restoration? Is that what you're planning on? Or you have some other fund?
I don't care what line item you put it on. It's out of our unspent funds, is the way I look at it.
So you've only spent $859 and $1,500 on the sexton. And you want a $600 increase. Walk me through that. The sexton line was on 1,500 top line?
Yes. Because the way this has been done in the past, when somebody buys a cemetery plot, they write a check to the town. I don't know how many checks they write, but there's money to buy the right to bury.
Right.
There's money for buying corner markers, and there's money for paying the sexton to install the corner markers.
Okay.
None of that money goes through this budget.
Well, that's income. That's gonna go through the income budget.
The payment to the sexton for that installation has never been through this budget. That is all going through an in and out fund, and I think that's wrong. We're changing it.
Well, we agree on that.
We're changing it. Going forward, the burial money will continue to go into an expendable trust fund. The corner marker money will go through this fund, and you see there's a new line item for corner markers somewhere.
Yep.
850.
That would be the purchase price of the
Right.
corner markers. And the sexton's charge for installing them is included in the sexton line item.
Okay.
So all of that corner
So now
marker
we
money.
can,
So-
okay, we
so-
can treat the sexton money that's coming in on the revenue side as revenue,
Yes,
not as some sort of other in and out
So,
fund.
so it all used to be off budget, and now we're,
putting it in budget. So it's gonna be offset on a revenue.
Right. Well,
But it'll be open in public.
Well, that's the same thing we do with other, like Jack, there are fees
How's that gonna confuse?
that he spends the money and then comes to the.
Well, just tell them it's offset on the revenue side.
Yes,
okay.
yeah, it works.
You could set a cemetery revenue line in the budget, say we got this new offset. I don't know, but to
Okay.
me, it's the way to do it, is to make it open. Because it's too complicated to try to track who's paying.
Well, who's tracking
Or
it?
Diane's trying to track it, yeah, and it's
Okay.
hard.
So
What else?
the other increase, I understand the maintenance part. The restoration is going up another $1,500.
Yeah, because we got rid of, something.
No, you didn't get rid of
There's
mowing.
something.
You got rid of mowing and that went into maintenance. I just don't know what, are we doing more restoration?
There was another, there was another
Well, now
line.
your office supplies, you're going to $100.
Right,
So
Right.
something that's $1,500 that you spent somewhere must be going someplace else.
yes. $1,500 we spent, we bought a new fireproof file cabinet.
Yeah,
And we don't need that
okay,
anymore. And we need the cabinet, but we don't need to spend that money on office supplies anymore.
right.
So
okay.
we'd rather spend it on cemetery work.
I see what you did. So what you did was. we-
Put 1,500 up
We pushed
there
the
instead.
office supplies up and now we're just gonna move that money into restoration.
Yes,
All right.
because it's unlimited how much money we can spend on restoration.
Yeah.
Well, it's limited only by
But-
your budget.
Right.
Well, and the trustees' time the more money you have to spend on doing the restoration, the more of your time it takes to get the projects outlined and
Right,
managed, so,
yeah, but we don't get paid for that.
no, but I'm talking, but you only have so much time you can put into it.
Well, that's right.
So, as we look at old cemetery restorations, we have a number of years in here, in the recent past, where we've spent nothing or very little.
Right,
And this year, we've spent 800 out of 2,500.
right.
And these are all, there are projects out there, but you can't get to them because of something,
The
right?
weather, or the person who was doing our repair work on the stones out here only had 2 days
Mhm.
because of their schedule.
So
So,
looking
yeah.
at this in total, do you know offhand how much money the sexton was paid last year for placing cornerstones?
For placing corner, yes, approximately, the difference here is 600,
$600?
I think so.
Okay. We'll check, because I'm looking at a $2,100 increase in the budget. And if it's offset by revenue, then that's fine. I mean, it's always gonna go up a little bit.
Right, you're 850 and you're 600, so there's there's at least 1,500 of it is in the cornerstones and setting them.
Okay. All right, then we're talking about a $600 difference and we're pushing money into restoration. Okay,
Right,
I'm good,
right.
thanks.
Lloyd?
Sexton is 2,100. Cemetery maintenance is now 15,000, right?
Yep, because we added the old cemetery mowing to that.
Old cemetery restoration is 4,000.
Yes,
Cemetery improvements,
1,400.
1,400. It's missing. Old mowing goes away. 850 for cornerstones and metal stakes.
Yeah, that's not going to be offset by revenues.
Okay, but it's still, we have to budget for it.
Yep,
And office supplies is what?
$100.
$100.
So a total of 23,450. And I'm gonna make are we ready for a motion?
We're ready.
And that difference there is like, what, $800, 1,800?
And what's,
2150.
and the total for those items is 23,450?
Kurt, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the budget for the cemeteries for 4195 at 23,450.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
then,
And-
if we
and-
don't get our fences accomplished, we'll be back to, our gates. to try to get you to encumber the funds.
Yeah, again, if you got a contract before the end of the year, then we can encumber it, you know how it works.
It's
And
been pulling teeth to get a bid.
Yes.
the economy is good.
It's like, look, we want to
So-
buy them now, we'll buy them from you right now.
Yeah.
We can even find somebody who'll store them for us, I think.
Jim's here, he'll stop.
And you can install them in the spring, you know, but. to
That
get
was the same thing with the fence down at the beach. One
Right.
good.
crazy.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Bean?
Morning. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Jim.
Okay, that's what the parts that I do now. So we did get a bid in for the paving on Sawyer Road and the top coat, the 1-inch top coat on Brown. So we do have that now. As far as if we want to plug that into the paving budget.
So a total of $107,000, $107,660.
But if we do them both together, here's a line item down here, says you do them both together, the town saves $12,840 if we do them on the same day.
So 84,200.
Yes.
I got it.
And I did talk to him a little bit about the chip sealing to see what his thought was. He said that paving has been trying to get away from that for the last 20 years. He said that's his feeling. He's willing to come in and talk to us about it. We'd like to talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be
Yep.
good.
And he said that he'd come in and help us. He said, you know, if I send him a copy of what we have for that.
I was gonna say,
Yes.
giving him a copy of that?
No, but we're hoping that we might meet tomorrow, and I'll give him a copy, and you can review it and talk about it, and then if you'd like, we could set up a time.
And there may be some other procedures in that list that they gave us that he might recommend as opposed to.
Yep.
So,
But-
yeah, that-
The one thing that he did say is, you know, how we have 3 locations to grind for next year, as on that report.
Mhm.
You know, he said jumping around costs money, as you can clearly see that, you know,
Sure.
it's, if we could get them done in one day, the goal is to get 1,000 ton on the road in a day. That's where we make, or save our money, is to get X amount. If you split it up into 2 days and you're not gonna get the same amount done, obviously the price goes up.
But looking at the, and that's a good point, but looking at the schedule over time, it's not like every year you're jumping around to do a quarter of a mile here and a quarter of a mile there. It seems as though she's trying to bring, or her plan was to bring bad sections up and then start doing bigger sections.
Yep, there is some sense to that. I mean, get the 3 worst sections out of the way, and the
Yeah.
roads seem,
And
Better.
when I looked at the detail on some of the other sections of North Line, for instance, the paving condition was substantially better than on the one that she was looking at doing the the full depth on. And so procedures that she has on the schedule going forward don't include chopping up the other sections and redoing them down the road.
okay.
Okay, it's a different procedure. So it's not like we're doing full depth on this quarter mile this year, and next year we do it on the next quarter mile. And so I think that's why she's got these 3 different sections in different roads.
And she's available too. I mean, if we get talking with Carol about scheduling, maybe bring her in on a meeting and let's, you know, flesh this whole program out a little more.
She can,
That's a good
tweak
idea.
the recommendation.
When she changes things in the model, now it's there. And she's gonna change it next year after you get your, whatever paving we get done. Get that done, that changes the model again. So she's gonna have to be active in this process. I think bring her in over the winter if they're not doing anything. Lakes region, I mean, it's frozen, lakes are frozen.
True. Yep, I don't know how much work they do, but.
Drink coffee.
I have a couple of questions. First of all, this is excellent, putting it down. The public wants to know what the price is, and and Carol, I like the way that you prepare the roads, you grind the roads, you do the edges. The concern I have is it doesn't serve your purposes any when you get stuck with them doing work in November and December. You know, I'm of the opinion that Carol should be in Tufton Borough when the school buses aren't running. How do we accomplish that, sir?
Well, I'll be honest with you, we were in good shape, but we had a problem on which roads we were gonna pave this year. He did dirt in the beginning of the year, and he was ready to go to the next road, but we, as a group, didn't have that figured out, so we couldn't have him here. It all would have been done in June. So that was on us.
Right. I'd like to see that happen, and if it means Lloyd Wood has to step up to the plate and be part of the solution, I have
You feel
no
flagging?
problem. What?
Yeah.
I had a career in flagging, yes. But I think you understand where I'm coming from. It needs to be off your plate so you can do somewhere.
We'd like to get the work done as early as possible so we can all enjoy the roads for the summer too, you know.
And given, I mean, I'll just be the skunk in the woodpile a little bit here. Given that we are a very small town with intricate little needs like quarter-mile sections, maybe having the ability to say, we'll make the school buses wait for a second or two during the traffic tie-up, and we can do it in March, or not March, April or May. I mean, I'm sure there are other larger towns that are saying, no, but as long as there are school buses running, we don't want pavers in our town. We don't need to be that town. We really don't, in my estimation.
We did hurt ourselves this year by being indecisive about whether we were going to do Brown or something else later in the season. Once he was here and did his early work for us, then getting back in the schedule, now we kind of go to the end of the line in terms of getting the original. So I think having our program set at the beginning of the season up front is a much better way to go. That's what you normally do. We deviated from it this year and we were late getting finished. But to your point, we are a small town, so we don't control an awful lot of what goes on. And while it was later in the year for us, Wolfboro still had some roads that they were doing in November.
I did ask about that. I asked about
yeah.
that. And it was not his fault.
Right.
Wolfboro did not have their under drainage and all their work done.
Right.
They had their work to do, and he kept asking them, when are we gonna be ready? When are we gonna be ready?
Right.
And they never really got it ready in time. It froze up before they
So,
got it finished.
I guess I'm just saying, we weren't the last town in the area to be doing paving this year. That's not, one of the benefits to getting the schedule started early is when you run into weather issues and it slips, then you're not into the cold weather issues in the fall.
Which came very early this year.
It did.
You think?
Yeah, I don't remember it ever like this, to be honest with you.
Okay.
You do?
I remember one fall that snowed on October 22nd, there
Yeah.
was snow on the ground until April.
Yes. When I was a kid, we used to, the church had Thanksgiving Eve bonfires and skating parties and potluck suppers on the bay.
Yeah, I
Wasn't it
skied.
8 years ago? It didn't freeze.
I think I skied every Thanksgiving when I was in high school.
I remember hunting the snow.
But did you go up north for
Yeah,
that?
I didn't ski it. I haven't.
Yeah. Yeah, well, now you might with the snowmaking.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
That's back when we used to walk to school. Remember those days?
Oh, yeah, I know. The road was cross edge in it.
Okay, and also I have my monthly update. So the month of November, we had a lot of rain, and we did the best that we could on the dirt roads. We graded as many as we could before the cold weather started. We didn't get them all, but we got the worst ones. Then we cleaned out the ditch lines and opened up culvert ends. We moved a few hazards in the side of the roads for plowing. Filled and repaired potholes as needed.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
Roadside hazards. There's a flatbed trailer on Sodom Road that's been
I've actually talked to the police department about it.
Okay, that's ridiculous.
Yes.
He's cleared that lot, he can move it to the lot. And it's gotta be, if we get significant snow, that's gonna be impeding your plowing right there, because he's right off the edge of the road.
Well, when you see the trailer up on its side over the stone wall, it won't be in the way anymore.
Oh, God.
But it would be nice if
Heaven's
we could
brothers.
get the contractor that's doing that stuff to just drag that trailer out. I mean,
Yeah.
when he put it there, and I figured, okay, a couple of days, but it's been there for weeks.
Yes, and I did talk to the police department about it last week, saying the same thing. It was fine before the plowing, but it's time to,
Right.
and
So,
so they are trying to get in touch.
okay.
We put away the picnic tables.
Thank you.
We hauled in some winter sand, which we've used most of.
Salt
Clean-
arrived today.
Yeah.
Saw 2 trucks.
Cleaned up the debris for several windstorms. And during the month of November, we were called out 9 different days for either plowing or treating. Once in October and once already in December. Also, I did check on the mowing bid that we got, and it is for both sides of the road. And I called the recommendation, which was Town of Wakefield, and they said that they did an excellent job. They came when they're supposed to, and they came in lower than what they gave a price for, which they didn't have to do.
And do you have a tentative month you'd like to see them mow?
You know, honestly, I think any time in July and August would be fine, but that way it's not during the school bus time.
And they're responsible for their fuel, the driver? Who pays the driver? Is it their driver?
Yeah, it's their driver, yes.
It's not your employee, right?
Insurance?
Not at all.
So,
Yeah, they pay for everything, so yeah, it should be all good, but it doesn't cost any more money than what they quoted us.
and do they supply the signs for the road?
Yes.
Sounds like a home run, sir.
Yes.
So, and this is the company, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. So all you gotta do is just give them a call. They're new to this, so I really wanna book them
Yeah.
before they get too
Yeah.
busy and we don't get them.
So,
Okay.
sounds like a win.
Yeah, you want a motion? I mean, I'll make a motion
All
that
right.
we hire
It's called Energized Line Construction.
Energized Line Construction to do the roadside mowing.
I'll second.
Any
What's
further
the-
discussion?
What's the price?
This price is $360 per mile, and that's both sides, correct?
Yes.
Yep,
And that's times, what, 48 miles?
yep.
50 miles?
I mean,
We'll get 50 miles.
Now, do they do, for example, around the parking lot, or is that a whole nother 19-mile day? Are there any, do they do the banks at Sergeant's Crossing, for example?
well, I guess I don't know how far up or that but they'll do whatever we ask them, I'm sure. And then if we, need to go farther up.
Yeah.
And then maybe we don't do a little section that's not as bad somewhere else or whatever. I'm sure that would work out fine.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
So we have a total dollar figure,
No, we don't. We have a per mile figure.
but for budget purposes, we need to know what that extrapolates out to, correct?
We're gonna do that now.
Okay.
We don't have to have them do that now.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Good.
Okay, that's all I have. Is there any
I
questions?
haven't gotten an update on your budget, but I'm sure we're happy we didn't overspend during the summer because we have a
Yeah.
winter.
It's
We
nuts.
did warn you about the fact that it snows from time to time.
As of Friday, you have $22,387.56.
Yes.
And do you have sand that's all in the shed?
We've been hauling it in. I'm gonna say that we still need more sand at this point. I know we got a couple loads of salt recently, so.
Yeah, the trucks came in today. I saw the 2 tractor trailer trucks, I saw them turning down Sodom Road as I came in at 7:30.
Okay, somehow I thought we only had one scheduled for today, but
Well, we should watch that expenditure as well,
That's
because we've got,
adding up
yeah.
quickly.
So
Yeah,
your,
a few
your
more
plan, I
weeks,
guess, with sand and salt is you're gonna play it close to the vest. Just having enough here to keep things going, to make sure that we've got the money to handle the road
Yes,
maintenance.
we're probably not gonna fill it at this point.
Right,
I thought we would have actually, had it filled by now, but it seems to be going out quickly, so.
Well, it's been a horrible winter.
I
Through
think-
no fault of your own.
I did take time to check out there in the marketplace for the rate for dump truck and plow, 10 or, yeah, I guess a 10 wheeler.
Yep.
And
that's coming in for next week, right, Karen?
Yes, I believe that's right. I'd have to let
Next
Karen
Monday's
offhand,
meeting.
but
The two towns we got copies of, Tuftonboro, and I guess it was Thornton, Auburn and Thornton. For example, 6-wheeler with plow and sander and driver is within pennies of the $82. One's $84, one.
Yep.
Yeah, I looked at some of the other rates and they were close to yours. I asked the state, what do they pay, not for a truck, but, private truck, but a private driver to do it, and it's $25 an hour. I don't know what they get for a truck and a driver.
well, I know the yellow truck is the other driver.
Yes.
That's it, went on at 85, I believe.
And that's
That's
10-wheeler.
So,
And the difference between them and us too is, once they get called in, they're on the clock till they go home, even though they may not be plowing during that time. They might come back for a break for 2 hours and go back out, so they're not wasting salt. So they could be sitting inside there. We don't do that. You come back for 2 hours, you're off the clock for the 2 hours,
I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page as far as market rate. And I think I'm pretty comfortable with what's going on. Great. And
Road striping was the other proposal that we had.
I thought that we agreed that we were probably gonna have the same company come back. We were gonna put stipulations in there as far as timing.
Okay. And
Are we gonna add any roads?
I've got the two proposals here, and I don't remember which one was the guy that has been working for us. Was it highway safety or was
No,
it
they're the ones that did the crooked lines. It
Okay.
was,
industrial traffic
Yeah, industrial.
lines?
yes.
Okay. And their price is $81.36, and the other one was just a per foot price, so I think they'll have it extended. So do we need a motion to go with industrial traffic lines again for
I had
2019?
some questions.
So,
Yeah, question.
let's put a motion on
it
the,
should be a 4 per foot quote in there for them too, I think.
yeah,
I think
Yes.
that-
Okay.
I thought they came in per foot as well as that.
Yep.
Gross.
Yep.
I'll make a motion that we hire or contract with industrial traffic
industrial traffic lines.
lines for the 2019 road striping.
Second? I will second. Any discussion?
Plenty of discussion. You and I have had conversations about stop lines. Is this the year we do stop lines? What's your recommendation?
I would like to see them. I think they could help as far as preventing problems, particularly on Tuftonboro Four Corners. It seems like a good place to start.
Sure.
And at the school, I think there's a
Yes.
stop line there.
Now-
I never stop anyway. so
Are we
it doesn't matter.
the state is responsible for stop signs that abut state highways.
Correct.
Are we responsible for the stop lines?
I believe we are. I know that Marlboro does.
I believe we are.
Yes.
Okay, let me toss out some other areas. Other towns, for example, the entrance to their transfer station they put the center line and the white lines down to keep the roads from being broken up, at least 100 feet in, and then put stop lines there. Do you think that makes sense to improve that intersection?
Yeah, yeah, I like the idea of not breaking up the pavement.
That's right. As far as breaking up the pavement, you and I have talked about the traffic that goes to Melvin Village to Ossipee, comes up New Road, a short section of County Road, High Street, and I say there should be yellow lines and white lines. And I go back to Durgan Road, you put white lines down by the school, the whole length. And also the white lines on Hand Hill. And you haven't had to repair the last 5 years.
It's made a big difference.
It's made a big difference. And there's a couple of other roads in town I'd like to see done. So before I vote for this, I'd be willing to sit down with you and come up with some recommendations and get our pencil out. Because I think it's short money to put a few more white lines down and a few more center lines. I'm adamant about the yellow line on County Road because I drive that road every single day, and 3 times I've almost been hit head on by pinheads coming down County Road and on my side of the road on New Road.
Hopefully they don't vote, but I can appreciate your wanting to review the striping budget. I think that's probably a good idea. But the motion that's on the table right now is for the contractor.
Right.
And
Between the two bids that we have to award the contract to.
Right, and it's on a per foot basis.
And not the amount.
No, we're not voting on an amount.
Okay.
Right. I mean, he quoted us a per lineal foot cost, and based on the information we gave him, or what he did this year.
Decide how many feet, yeah.
Right, right. So the same that we did this year, he's got a total price on, but that is his.
It's always based on per foot.
Right, it's always based on per foot, and we've had this conversation before about striping additional roads, and the question I have raised, and I will raise again, is what's the traffic on the roads? We now have striped our most heavily trafficked roads in town. If we're going to do additional roads, I think in terms of prioritizing what we add in terms of striping, that we ought to base it on something somewhat objective, like how much traffic the road gets. You know, breaking down the edge of the roads because people are driving over them, and the fact that you put lines down and it helps with that, I think is good. But I would go back to the road agent with what roads are you having trouble on breaking down. I appreciate your concern about County Road. Since I live off of New Road, I certainly travel it every day.
As much as anybody.
Yeah, right. And is it possible for people to cut the corner? Yeah, but it doesn't strike me as a very hazardous location in town. So in the grand scheme of things, we could certainly stripe every town road, center stripes and fog lines at a fair amount more than what we're paying for striping today. I haven't lived in this town all that long, but I remember when we first started striping roads, or at least recently, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and the improvement that it made on those roads. And I'm not against including additional roads, but I think rather than doing it anecdotally, that we ought to base it on some good reason.
And I think probably if we were to contact the paving study lady from Lakes Region Planning, they did a traffic study. It wasn't extensive, but they can tell what roads are more used than others.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the only thing I'd add to what you said, Chairman, is that once you stripe a road, you're going to stripe that road forever. So we need to kind of establish where we want to be on our budget I mean, we've got a certain amount of money we've spent on striping, and now we're gonna have to maintain that striping, if you will, until the end of time, I guess. But if we add another road, then we're adding that much more to the budget for striping, so it needs to have some pretty significant input as far as why, from my expectation. And I think the first step is to ask her for a traffic study, and what roads did she find were more heavily traveled? Because in that paving study, they premised a lot of their work based upon the amount of travel, the amount of traffic that was going on,
Right.
so.
Yep, they did. All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve awarding the contract for striping for 2019 to industrial traffic lines. Any further discussion?
No.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep, so you,
Are you tired of the sausage making? Is that?
gotta go home and make jelly, right?
Yeah.
By the way, I have a bunch of jelly jars at home. Would you like some?
I would.
I would like to get you one.
That's my question.
You can this weekend, we only Tuesday. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll try
Or on
and
my
remember to
doorstep.
drop them off at Mindy's. Yeah, super.
Wendy's closing for a while, I guess.
after this weekend.
Yeah,
This is country selectmen meeting, you know, talk about this.
yeah, exactly. All right.
What can the selectmen do to assist you in your operation? I have watched private people plow county road. And it's gonna cause a water problem for the guy who lives on Sodom Road, right? It's not your guys plowing, is it?
No, we don't, we discourage having people go down to the end of the dirt section of county during the time of year that it's closed.
Mhm.
Because if we're not maintaining it, we can't keep the same level up that somebody else might plow. And there have been cars and trucks that have been stuck down there. And GPS can take you that way.
The other road is Lang Pond Road. Less than a month ago, you guys graded it. I couldn't catch up to him, but a private contractor is plowing it, and guess what? Digging it up. Excuse me, part of Lang Pond Road is not a through road once there's snow, right?
We do have a time frame on that, I believe.
December 1st.
Now, your crew is not plowing the road, right?
No, we try not to, because right now the dirt roads are so soft that it's almost impossible to plow dirt roads.
Quite frankly, in my mind, it destroyed the work that your guys did, or it was partially destroyed.
Lang Pond has been plowed for the last few winters by somebody else.
I'm
Not
sure if these private contractors want to do something for the town, you know, I'd go to you and say, can we hire them to if they want to donate their time, to plow out the parking area at 109, 19 Mile Bay, and I'll ask the selectmen to send them a letter, thank you for your donation of X amount of services.
I don't think that's what they're trying to do as much as.
But do
Tongue
you,
in cheek going on here.
yes, there is. You see how I'm trying to,
They can plow my driveway if they want to
you know,
plow.
solve an issue?
Yes.
The other thing is, your guys, at the request of the watershed committee, has always plowed away from Lang Pond, the lake, so the ice and the snow don't break the bushes down and that those bushes come back. These do-gooders don't understand that. It hasn't been explained to them. So maybe a comment can be made in the newspaper that the road agent and this board would appreciate that people raise their snow plows when they go through.
Well, the other thing too, I guess
How should it be worded?
Does it need to be, you know, I don't want to say barricaded, but some way to keep traffic off from it during those seasons?
Do we put yellow tape across?
So I'm going to suggest that we research that, because seasonal roads have a specific RSA that deals with them. So I don't know what we can and cannot do. My memory says you cannot prevent people from driving on them. But as it relates to doing other activities, so let's research that and readdress it. Yeah, I mean, but county road is a particular issue in the wintertime, I know, because somebody goes through and plows it, and then you get a day like today when it's raining, and you know they've disrupted the diverters you got to get the water off to the side, and it's
Well, there are other roads in the state. I mean, I think of Bear Notch Road, for instance, that
Mhm.
actually have gates.
right.
And they just close them up, and in the winter, once everything's covered in snow, they open them up for the snow
Right.
machiners. But
Right.
Yes, they do, yes.
So
I'm sure there's some available
yeah,
solution.
exactly.
There's another area about plowing. Does your crew plow Union Wharf?
Out to the end of the,
Right. Could I make a suggestion that they back out and plow in? First of all, there won't be all the gravel deposited out there that you get stuck moving. The other thing is, I think it was a contractor went and they put the pile of snow from the first 3 plowings. Guess what they did with all that material?
I heard it was blocking the ramp, the boat ramp or something.
No, out at the end. They threw it over and put a container down because
Oh, really?
you know,
I wasn't aware of that.
you know, that stuff isn't supposed to go in the lake.
Right.
You know, on the other hand, I have no problem with them using it to, you know, put a container there. It's just a thought, you guys could be a little creative.
Hmm.
And it's not a criticism at them or you or anything like that. You were gonna check into the granite post on Durgan Road.
I have not done that. We do need to, what I think we need to do is I need to have a talk with the postmaster or whatever to find out what the rules and regulations are, and I guess we need to either send that to people
Right.
or through the newspaper. Because there's actually, standard height and distance and everything like that, and it doesn't seem like that's being followed throughout.
I personally witnessed the following, and I have to compliment whoever your driver is of the big truck. I used to drive a snowplow. I used to be a wingman like this. He's going up, and of course, when you're going uphill and you're rolling the snow, if you stop that truck and try to start up, it's tough on the truck, isn't it?
Well, you're probably not
No,
gonna get
I've
going.
watched you, I've watched Kyle Joseph. He's there. Now, he came to the 2 mailboxes that are the new ones. He had to swing out. What happens to the front plow?
No, it goes over the.
When this truck pulls out like to this, what happens to the snowplow? It's over in the other lane,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, car coming the other way, couldn't stop. I thought I was gonna witness an accident. And they fly on Durgan Road. Your truck driver did nothing wrong. He pulled out here and went around the granite post and back in. The last thing I want is our equipment, number 1, but or number 2, but any one of our employees to get hurt. And that's why I mention it again. And if I have to go with someone with you to help communicate, I would volunteer, but you do the talking. Next, catch basins. You said you had a list of catch basins that were inspected this year, and you were going to submit it to us?
Okay, yes, I do.
Okay. Is the catch basin at Tuftonboro Corner ours or the state's?
States.
Okay. And I understand the weather and, and all that, and I know that you've worked with Tim on that. I don't know, is it too late to fix it because of the weather? I don't know. But cars coming down and coming around are coming into the other lane. I actually saw one slow down, and as a lady came around, almost slid into the driveway, at the gray house there on Durgan Road.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes, it was kind of slippery, and it's nobody's fault, but that's a tough intersection to begin with.
It is. It is probably the worst intersection in town, as far as
Yes.
I'm concerned.
What's interesting is, and I'll be talking about it Wednesday at the state, you come up Ledge Hill Road, and you couldn't see the stop sign because the bushes are. So I'll ask the state what they're going to do about that stop sign.
We cut them, what day was that? Saturday. We went up there with a saw, actually. cut those bushes because the snow pulled it down,
Mhm.
so we did cut them.
Yeah, I actually called the police and reported that,
Yes.
and it was taken care of right away.
The culvert at Zadidar Farms needs to be extended. Is that on your budget for next year? The truck, I watched a truck the other day come up, a fuel truck, and almost go off. Can't do it this winter, but I know it's been on
Yeah.
the radar for a while.
It has, it's an easy enough project, we should be able to do
Yeah,
that.
I like that.
And I think we should probably, maybe that's a good place to have the white lines too. Just in the first 50 feet or something.
That was another intersection that I was looking at. No. I was listening to. And do you have a list of 5, 10 culverts that should be literally rebuilt?
Yes. I have a complete list of every culvert.
Okay. I'd like to talk to you about that, of how we can work together and move that program along. So,
Okay.
thank you for what you do. It's appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
Thank you.
thanks, Jim.
Jim,
Thanks, Jim.
could I have
Think
a copy
spring.
of,
Yeah, me too.
As far as today's.
do you have your pretty little thing with the yellow on?
See you later.
Yep.
Have a good holiday, you and your family.
The FR Carol stuff.
One was your, this is today's.
We're thinking of that, the thing the selectmen had at FR Carol.
Oh, yes, okay. Back there, definition.
I can always get
All
a
right.
copy of theirs.
Let's move to the personnel administration budget. I'm sorry, I'm right by that.
I don't know what it is that.
There you go. Oh, we have another copy there.
Did you need that one? I'll probably.
We,
I can make a copy.
We didn't do this one yet, huh?
I should probably keep on.
Personnel administration
I'll
budget.
give you that back. Thank you.
Um,
But I'll make a copy. That's before that.
Is that 4130?
4155. You should have it there.
Should have. Sure.
There. I see it,
Thanks.
yeah. You can see the, I saw the long sheet, so.
When is the budget committee meeting? Is there one this week?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday? Here, 6:30?
Yeah, I put it in your yellow folder. Yeah.
All right, so we're looking at a $63,000 increase. Is that right? In personnel administration?
Yeah,
Yeah.
62 and some change.
Yeah.
And most of that is in health insurance.
Yeah.
In 2018, wasn't there some separation pay for Carl?
It comes out of the police.
What is separation pay then, if it's all in the police budget?
Well, do we
Maybe I'm
have,
thinking something else, sorry.
we have other employees other than police.
But the point is, didn't we expend something already in 2018?
Did we separate from anyone other than a police officer?
Got Carl went
No,
to...
that came out of the police budget though, didn't it? Didn't that, can you answer that?
Well,
Okay.
So I understood it comes out of the lines that it normally would have if he was still here, that's how I
all right,
understood it.
so I think your question is, and it's mine as well, is if the separation pay is included in individual department budgets, then what is the separation pay in the personnel administration
Yeah.
budget?
Right, and I
Or
don't know
is
the
that-
answer to that. I can ask Diane to come in.
Yeah, yeah. Is that,
Well, get $70,000 worth of Social Security and Medicare. So there must be some employment involved in that.
Sure.
Yes.
Yep.
So that's employment outside of the police department or the fire department, let's say.
Well, I think that includes everybody's, but I could be wrong.
I'm looking on the personal administration sheets that she does. That includes
Yeah.
everything.
The backup.
Yep.
Hi there, how you doing?
Hello.
I had a question about separation pay.
Well, it's only been used once since I've been here, and the reason being was an employee was let go.
Okay.
Typically, if an employee submits their resignation, they get their, provided that they submitted it within the requirements of the personnel policy, they get their 50% of sick time and their vacation on the books, so they wouldn't really need a separation. You would need to tap into that for
I
that
see.
type of
Okay.
leave separation.
This is like an insurance policy if there's extenuating circumstances.
Yeah, sometimes you might give somebody a severance package or something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Or
I
if
think
you
we-
had to, if you had to fire an employee and then you had litigation and the litigation resulted in some sort of.
That makes sense to me and it's appropriate. Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Yeah, $48,890 is the increase in insurance, so that's the bulk of this.
Yep, and the rest of it is just programmatic.
It's the mathematical
Yeah, the
salaries.
Social Security goes up, the retirement fund goes up, and that's all based on, gross pay, as well as,
Yeah, 2,000.
Yep. all right. Seems, it's a fair amount of money, but it's pretty straightforward.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we approve personnel and administration budget 4155 for $650,813.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I'm all set.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we go to the signature file. All right. So we have two holiday schedules, the transfer station and the other town departments presented here. You had a chance to look them over?
Yeah, I didn't know why we had two. I didn't really examine them close enough.
It has to do with the fact that the transfer station works on weekends.
Right.
So, for instance, when there's like Easter Sunday, which happens to be a Sunday,
Yep.
is a day that the transfer station would normally be open, but it's, I believe, listed on there as a day that they're closed for holiday.
Oh, I see. The only one that's different is, that I can see,
Is Easter?
is Easter.
Yeah.
This year, last year, there were 5 days like that.
Oh, I guess November 29th,
Yeah.
the day after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
No, they have that as well, June 5th, so it is only Easter.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
I'll make a motion we approve the holiday schedule.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
And that only needs you, or does it need all of us?
No, it needs us all. All right, I've got a notice of intent to cut timber for 55-3-3.
I'll move we sign that.
Second.
I'm sorry, you just said, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Karen, on these here, you still check to make sure that the log is in good standing and
Mhm.
All the old protocol you go through?
Well, I send it to DRA and the,
Yeah, thank you.
for changing it.
Okay. We've got a notice of intent to cut for PID 14-2-34 and 15-3-38.
I'll move we sign it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I got a notice of intent to cut for 55-1-2, 3, and 15.
I'll move that we sign that.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And finally, I have a poll license for New Hampshire Electric Co-op and Northern New England Telephone Operations. And this was sent to us by our the law firm that's representing us. Yeah, that's who it was, right?
DTC?
Yeah,
In one of
DTC.
in one of these envelopes,
Yep.
there was some legal
There was. So,
explanation.
and they said we need to sign it and send it on. So I'll entertain a motion on signing the poll license.
We signed, approve it or refuse it?
No, it's
No, we're creating a licensing
Right.
action to comply with the taxation rules that
Yes.
they're coming
Right.
up with. So I'll make a motion that we sign this license to, or
the poll license, yeah.
application for license for the
Yeah.
polls.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And there are, these are for specific, for one pole on Dane Road. That's what this is.
That's an easement to put it in, right?
Yep. Okay. That's all that for signature. Selectmen's update.
I'm gonna be meeting with Diane and Karen and hopefully Christy Sarles after today's meeting to create a calendar of events for the library so we don't run into the same kind of issues that we had before, and also get an update on the finances needed, because I have a budget committee meeting, I think, is it Tuesday or Wednesday, Karen?
Wednesday.
Wednesday, so we'll start. A number of those members have started to ask for not publicly, but privately, how much money is the budget this year, and what's the gross budget looking to
Yes.
be? And I think we need to start thinking about that and thinking about
Yes.
the warrant articles, and how that impacts
Yeah.
the whole budget. So that's what I'll be doing at 10:47.
Oh, terrific. Great, great. All right. Lloyd?
I represented the town and no one showed Wednesday,
Mm-hmm.
so she has 10 days to respond,
Yeah.
which is appropriate. Friday, I'll be going to Concord. My compliments again to the Conservation Commission. They're just one of many groups of people that serve this town well.
They do a lot of work behind the scenes.
Yes. Karen, did you get the CIP info to the chairman okay?
I sent it to her, but then, and she thanked, I thought she thanked me for it, but then she wrote me an email again asking, so I don't know, maybe she needs something more,
Okay.
so,
Thank you for accommodating her like that.
no problem.
CIP is wrapping up and whatever. At a previous meeting, I don't know if it was you, Mr. Chairman, but asked the police chief to please remove the cruisers from the parking lot here.
Well, consolidated, yeah.
Yeah, they're in the way. They can be subject to vandalism. They're now blocking snow removal. I'm going to ask that the Board of Selectmen ask him to please remove the cruisers and store them properly. There's one left out there, so I have no power to ask him, but the board does.
Do we have a suggested location for storage? Because I'm not aware of one.
It's called a garage. We have a garage.
Oh, you're saying store 'em in the garage?
I'm not going to tell him to put them there, but
Yeah.
that would be.
Well, as I recall, those bays are not big enough to actually fit the cruisers in them. I may be wrong, but
Oh, jeez.
I know that there were a couple that had height problems, but I can remember other police cruisers that were stored there, so. You know, they just need to be someplace where they're safe.
I think we could structure it as a suggestion. I'm not ready to go to war with the police chief over.
No, I'm bringing the topic up, and
Yeah.
part of me bringing it up is how can it be
well, when I mentioned it before,
appropriate?
the two cruisers that were here were not parked together, okay? One was here and one was over here, so when you plowed snow, you were working around two of them. After that point, he consolidated so that were both parked together and you're just working around the group. I mean, I think it's certainly appropriate to move them periodically, but
Or, yeah, move them to clean out.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point in time, I can understand directing the chief to make sure that they move their cars when the plowing's happening or after the plowing's happening.
Sure.
And so we've got a clean lot, and that makes sense. And how's he gonna use them if they're all snowed in?
yeah.
You wanna chat with him?
I'll ask him.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm all set.
Okay, two things I want to mention. The Hampshire Association of Chiefs of Police had their meeting on Saturday evening, at which Chief Shigori passed the baton to his replacement as president of that association. It was a nice event, and we went to the one last year, very similar to the one in Manchester, except a little closer to home. And he, I think during his tenure as president there, got some significant things done for policing in New Hampshire. And I know, talking with him on Saturday evening, he was happy that his term was coming to an end, and that he would give him more time to be spent here in Tuftonboro.
Great.
So my kudos to him for stepping up and taking that leadership role and seeing it through. The other thing I'll mention is the regional group of select boards that meets periodically is meeting here tomorrow at 6:30. So we have a short list of things that they're looking at cooperating on, but I think it's a good conversation vehicle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Among the various towns.
The last thing they worked on was electricity, correct?
They did work on, the consolidated electrical contract was something we did last year, and they looked at this year and didn't price-wise make any sense. But there are a number of things that they're working on. Nothing at this point close to.
And that's here?
The meeting right here. Yep. Yep. And I've been attending this year. If you want to attend, that's great too. We'll just post it as a meeting that.
Yeah, I think I'd like to.
Yep. All right. Would you post that, please?
Sure.
So 6:30 here, right here in this room, and
What day is that?
tomorrow.
Didn't I?
Yep. And that's all I have on update.
What time?
6:30. All right. Correspondence. Do we want to deal further with procurement policy today? I haven't done any more looking at it since last
I
week.
haven't looked at it.
So, all right. So we're not gonna.
I looked at it and I have no
Yep.
changes.
All right. Next, we have an invitation to bid for the 6-wheel plow truck.
Right.
I have a suggestion. Unless I was looking at the wrong plows, what plow, and especially the wing, that's more rusted than it is functional, just we sell those 2 pieces of equipment with it. I mean, I'm not aware of the plow fitting another truck.
I did talk to him about that for you,
Okay.
yeah, and they said if anything, if not the plow itself, pieces of it, things like that, that might be used for parts. So he was gonna remove, I think he already removed the plow, maybe removing some other things too, before the bid goes out.
So when we put the have we put the RFP out?
No, I need your
Okay.
final approval.
So is it equipped with a plow or is it not equipped with a plow?
No.
Okay, so then we're putting an RFP out just for the truck.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. Any other? Seems reasonable to me.
I'll make a motion, we put out the RFP
Okay.
to sell a 6-wheel dump truck.
I have a second. I will second it. Any further discussion?
The plow, probably we can make more money in scrap than we can actually including it. So I don't know that it's gonna make a difference in the bidding, so if it is bidding.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. I overlooked or bypassed the schedule of meetings, January through June. Did you have a chance to look it over?
Yeah, I did. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, we'll probably end up with a lot more Fridays than Sundays.
Yeah. No, that's, and we may have to move some meetings, but,
I didn't see anything
The one
Yeah.
thing, I want to follow up on your suggestion, perhaps in January, after the holidays, we meet in a work session and review, the last couple of years of non-public.
Yeah, I mentioned
Well,
that last Friday,
yeah,
if you
yeah.
remember, and I think we need to get that cleaned up.
Yeah.
I
yeah,
think after the holidays
Yeah.
is appropriate.
yeah. Okay, so Karen, you can go ahead and publish this
Okay.
schedule of meetings. For that for now. LRPC is having a legislative reception and commission meeting tonight at Lakes Region Community College, 5 o'clock. So, let's see, oh, and they have food, so,
Here you go, Lloyd. For
Almost.
dinner.
I got a meeting.
all right. And then this is what you're dealing with on the library, right? And the final,
Can I ask about the library?
Sure.
sure.
At one point, there was a talk where they have raised so much money. Is it fair to talk about paying for the library 1 year without borrowing money?
Well, I think that's.
Is that going to be part of your conversation?
Obviously, we're gonna get an update on what they raise. So, I mean, we have to stay ahead of that whole deal.
I don't have an agenda here one way or the other, but there's an element in the community that says, do we just bite the bullet? So,
Well, might not be that much bullet to bite. There've been
Yep.
an awful lot of fundraising going on.
Right.
if there's anybody who understands those
If
nuances, you do.
Well, it could be that we just make it a warrant article, which would make life a little simpler. But we'll find all that
Okay,
out.
well, and at this point, I think it's incumbent on us to proceed as though we're gonna have to borrow money and hit all of the requirements for borrowing. And we can always, if the fundraising continues to come in strong and the amount that needs to be raised from the town continues to shrink, decide before we put the warrant together
Yep.
to go the other way.
Well, I think there's no harm done with more public meetings regarding a
Exactly.
capital project.
Yes.
So even if all we talk about is the capital project and the money doesn't matter anymore, it's still a good meeting to have.
You're absolutely
Right.
right. Thank you.
All right. We have here a copy of the MS-46 from Carroll County. Which is a proposed budget and estimated revenue for the year 2019.
Karen, can I get a copy of that at your convenience?
Sure.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah, we should probably all have a copy.
yeah. Yeah, it wouldn't hurt.
Bring back memories, Chip.
Yeah.
Not all of them good, right?
No, they're all pretty good.
All right. The other thing in the correspondence file here is the proposals for the police facility RFP. We've talked with both of the bidders. Are we ready to move forward today, or
I'm sorry.
the police department facility?
Yeah, I've made my mind up.
Okay.
So yeah.
I liked your comment about working with HEB, so which firm is that you're in?
Alba. The other thing I liked about them, although I was a little concerned about not setting a percentage up front on an architectural fee, their explanation was good, and their or statement that they usually come in somewhere in the 6% range. Well, 1% on that building is significantly more than $1,000, which is, I think, the difference in their bid price. The last thing is that we got the principals working on it, as opposed to
It's-
the hired help. And
I look at it as we have two firms that, in my estimation, have the capability to do this work.
Yes.
One is an old line firm, been around for a long time, it covers pretty much all of northern New England. Lots of players involved, lots of capability, done a lot of projects. Further away from us, then we've got Alba, that is a smaller firm and closer to home.
Yes, they have a representative right in Moultonborough.
You know, it's, I'm comfortable going either way. I think there's definitely something to recommend, the fact that the principals are directly involved in the whole process.
What is the Alba price?
So,
18.6, wasn't it?
right, not to exceed, Alba price for this work is not to exceed $19,500. Okay.
The other one was 18.6.
And the other guy is at, it's in here someplace.
I knew there was a
Yeah.
$1,000 difference.
So,
And it's all not to exceed, so hopefully they'll
Yep.
come in at the same amount.
cost summary. Why is the cost summary in here, not there? It's odd. Okay. Oh, there it is. Yeah, there, it's $1,000 different in the the difference is Harriman has a fixed price of $18,500. Alba has a not to exceed price of $19,500. So, in my book, is not a huge
No, I think we're
difference
talking
difference
apples for apples.
in any.
I mean, the other, or another part of it being that I think, or would push me towards Alba, is the fact that they spend a lot more time on LED.
Yes.
And the reason why we probably wouldn't want to go full lead, but to incorporate parts of that into the project, I think is really important. And we'll probably not live to see the end of carbon energy, but the building might.
Yes.
And so, we need to be aware of what design opportunities are out there.
Yes. I'm ready to make a motion, Mr. Chairman,
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
that we award the contract to Alba in the amount of, is it 19.5?
Not to exceed
Not to exceed
$19,500. Yep.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
And I agree with you for those reasons, justify
All right.
our decision.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Contract is awarded to Alba.
God, we get things done.
About time, huh?
Can't wait.
All these months, we've just been twiddling our thumbs and we'll finally.
Everything but the purchase policy.
Yep, no,
Is that something that then goes into a warrant article?
no,
Or
no. We have money
You do
budgeted
have-
to
This
cover
is-
that this
yeah,
year.
this is
Yes.
just-
would be done, so you sign the contract, they're gonna do it?
There,
It's
yes,
money from this year's budget?
Right.
Right.
It is, it was a warrant article last year, actually.
Oh, okay.
And it's to review the needs, create a design, and a presentation for public consumption. I don't think any of us are foreseeing, I know we aren't, that this would become a police building warrant article for 2019. This process is gonna take a little
No,
while.
I just meant
So
revision for the contract.
Right,
Yeah, no,
but
no,
2020,
we already voted that in this year,
All right, so, okay.
so it's current year business.
The money has already been appropriated, and it's a project for FY 2020.
All right. Do we have any other business this morning?
I don't think so. I do.
You do, but we don't, right?
Right.
Okay.
Question?
Public comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Tonight is the presentation of the preliminary school board budget. And there's an article in the paper this week. As a preface to that, Jack Widmer has said that $920,000 of that budget is due to the state's reneging on promises, which is retirement, healthcare support. for education, stabilization grants, all that. Just so you know.
Well, that's why they have all this money that they think they have extra down there in Concord, where they were so judicious in their spending that they have a positive balance at the end of the year. But it is that they haven't, you know, lived up to their.
Well, there's been a lot of attention this year on the significant amount that the school taxes are in the tax
Right.
responsibility that people have to pay, and so two Brookfield selectmen went to all 3 finance meetings. Jack was pleased that someone came. He said it was the first time in about 20 years.
Right.
Okay. So of all those who were concerned, they did come.
Sure.
And what I hear is they ended up being very supportive.
Yes.
So tonight is the preliminary budget, people.
I have 2 comments.
Yeah.
First of all, the state of New Hampshire continues, for example, our Heather mentioned to us that the computers that the state
Oh, right.
uses to so we can register vehicles, starting next year, we're responsible for that. The other thing is that the school district is the only government agency that went to the bond bank and renegotiated the rate.
Yeah.
Now, Tufton Borough's share is 17 cents on the dollar, and it's only $9,000, but that's for the next 20 years. So as far as I'm concerned, the school board has been responsible, number one. Number 2 is the legislature continues to dump, when I have the politicians in town tell me, we saved you taxpayers. Well, wait a minute. The retirement, for example, they used to pay 35%. We pay all of it now.
Right.
So my taxpayers haven't been saved any money.
It's kind of a little shell game there. So.
Well, very few people, I don't think there's probably anybody in this room that pays state taxes other than liquor and tobacco. And business profits taxes, rooms and meals taxes, I mean, those are their revenue sources. So the average individual isn't paying business profits tax.
Right.
You know, I used to gripe about having to pay a 9% income tax or an 8% income tax on my income. And that's the business profits tax, is where that money comes from.
Yeah.
The business enterprise tax, if they want to call it that. We got rid of Gene Chandler and that crowd, so maybe we'll get some decent legislation out of them.
Yes, Joe?
Couple comments. One in reference to about moving the police cruiser into the garage. At one time it was mentioned that's where Andy's holding all his evidence lockup products in the garage. There's no other place to put it. Bikes, trailers, whatever. That's what's in the garage right now. I haven't been in it for quite a while. 2, my nephew came up from Maryland last Friday night. Came into town about 12 o'clock, following GPS. Well, then it sent him down Federal Corner Road and up the Cow Path, and finally there was a snowbank in front, so he had to back out and get out safely. That said, and we discussed this a couple of weeks ago, is there some way we can get a hold of the people who create GPS and send a list of roads of this particular town, say, hey, these roads are passable, just like we're down by Billy's place off of 171, whatever that road is, I don't know, it takes you over to Ossipee and the bus gets stuck over there.
Right.
So is there some type, one, can we do something? 2, who's in charge?
Google isn't Google.
Well, is it Google's in charge of GPS? I don't know. I'm just making a comment. Okay, that's all.
I have a response.
Okay.
Caleb Pike has worked with Google. There's 2 different Google outfits.
Okay.
If I understand it correctly, some of their GPS is based upon outdated maps. And he has made phone calls and can speak intelligently on that. Ask him about it.
Okay, well, thank you.
The other thing is, Adam Thompson supplied a copy of a yellow sign, and we were talking about doing something. exactly what you talk about, and that's still on our agenda. The other thing is the sign has never been, no sign has ever been replaced at the end of Federal Corner Road, exactly where you're talking about. So,
That's
and
why
that
it's
and that discussion,
gazetteer.
Right,
that discussion has been tabled.
All right, thank you.
yeah.
But earlier this year, I found a tractor trailer stuck on Willand Road.
All right,
Well, and we are gonna be putting signs on all those class 6 roads, but it's not gonna happen until we've got the money and we're.
you
tight on
can't
road
put a
money.
gate there, is that correct? We've already discussed this already.
We can gate a class 6 road.
You can't lock it.
Yeah, we cannot lock it.
Right,
Right, we could gate it, but what we have in the works is putting signage up. And at this point this year, with the budget where it is,
I think the yellow
Yes.
sign, Karen can give you a copy of it, and it talks about don't trust your GPS.
But it's still only gonna, I mean, it's only gonna kick in at the class 6 road place.
right,
So it isn't as if you're gonna know the general store that Federal Corner Road doesn't know all the way through. You know, you have to drive up there to find out.
right. But when you hit when you go on Federal Corner Road, beyond Brown Road, there is a sign there that says not a through road.
okay.
So-
I haven't been up there for quite a while.
Yeah.
Now, it's not the class 6 sign that we're gonna be putting up at the end of maintenance, but right past that corner, just like on North Line Road, when you're going toward Wolfboro, right past Federal Corner, there's a sign that says not a through road.
You know, and
Now, you know, it's, if
I think
you,
the town maintains the road all over the way.
yeah,
Yes,
and
and buried
and
in
repave
the
Shirley at
snow.
the same time, yeah. All right,
All right, I make a motion to dismiss.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.